I'm Dion Hibdon. I'm gonna give you August and September's picks on what the Hibdons throw that time of the year in these area lakes. This is Payden. He's gonna give you his opinion, which probably will vary somewhat from mine. So make sure you listen to mine and give his a think. I'm just kidding.
Listen to mine and not his.
Whichever. I mean, he is the most recent winner in September, I guess. But anyways, here we go. Come on, it's August and September.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. Figure it out. Need some rubber stuff. Because I mean, in July they're all still going to be, the bulk of them's going to be deep. So
Need a spinnerbait.
yeah, you do need a spinnerbait. Can you see a jig there that looks good? Pick up one of them ones with the green pumpkin chartreuse. I like a little bit of color that time of the year in my jig. Just because a lot of them are still going to be out deep, but the ones that do pull up under them docks are kind of bluegill oriented. They're mixing a lot more bluegill into their diet than kind of, when they're starting to make that transition. Because I think they check, and when I say they check, I think they eat shad, and when it starts cooling down a little bit and they start making their little moves and they pull up to the docks, I think even in July, they'll pull up on them docks a little bit and they'll check it out, make sure there's some food. And like I say, they've been eating shad so much, they try bluegill every now and then. So I add a little bit of color to my jig instead of, like right now I'm throwing green pumpkin the bulk of the time. I throw a little bit of chartreuse in there to make it look a little bit more bluegilly that time of the year. Show them what kind of trailer we use. Some, you don't have to be exact, but just if you can be, you can. And explain why.
You throw a lot of the rage crawls and like this menace, but this summer crawl, big deal for us. And whenever we downsize it, we go to something more so like the rage bug, or even the small rage chunk. But the colors stay about the same. Green pumpkin, summer crawl. Keep it pretty basic, pretty simple whenever it comes to colors.
When we order our Strike King stuff in that style, it's pretty basic. We got black and blue, we got green pumpkin, and we got, summer crawl for the most part. I'm not a big believer that colors make a huge difference, but it doesn't hurt. The little bit more chartreuse is when we're definitely fishing more around bluegill. That's when we start mixing that in. Another thing you might get is a bag of those white ones.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing that starts happening in the fall, as you start throwing a white jig around a little bit. It's good for limit fish. I mean, extremely good to have a little, shaddy looking jig, in your mix.
Nothing else to pull up to the end of a marina dock and catch a 12-inch spot if you need just a keeper.
Yeah, that's August and September can be a tough time. I mean, so you got to have those little tidbits that'll catch you one, in 10 minutes. So the end of a marina dock or the end of a break wall is a good way to do that. And the crazy thing about it is it's only good for one of two fish, keeper Kentucky or a 5-pound largemouth. Every now and then you'll pitch it out there and you'll come swimming it by and you'll think, holy crap, look at the size of that one. And you can catch a big one doing it. When it's early like that, when it's early in the season. You get later on in the season, up into September, October, stuff like that, then you start catching a better variety of fish on the corners, you know, 2-3 pounders, stuff like that. But first off, the first fish you're going to catch off of them in late July, early September, or in August and September, you know, one of the two, either a keeper or
A big one.
a big head, you know. Okay, we got some jig stuff up there.
Spinnerbait.
Spinnerbait's another good thing to have anytime in August and September, because when those shad make a move and move up there, the fish, a lot of the fish do too with them. And so a good little shaddy spinnerbait, you know, a little tandem willow leaf or something with fairly small blades, you don't need anything real big, you know, is a good combo for that. Also swim baits. You know, we throw a lot of swim baits on a jig head that time of the year, you know, just because you catch a fish. You know, it's a very good shad oriented. The spinnerbait, if your water's stained up a little bit, no matter where you're at, and when I say stained up, I mean from runoff, from the wind, you know, it's always good to have a little spinnerbait, okay? And like I say, the swim bait stuff, that's basically when the water's fairly clear on most of these Ozark lakes. Show them something like that, a spinner, or just some sort of swim bait.
Let's go up here to these other swim baits.
Are we that picky on those? We're not terrible picky on swim baits.
He's not terrible picky.
Yeah, I'm not terrible picky. I like a hollow belly most of the time, or I like a Kitech style, you know, which Kitech style, everybody makes one. Strike King makes one. You know, everybody,
Again,
like say, in this day and age makes one because it is
simple.
a fish catcher, you know, so you got to have them.
Shaddy looking, Tennessee shad, and then something.
And like I say,
chartreuse
90% of the time that's on a jig
that
head.
Slightly stained
You know,
water,
put it on
dingy
like a
water.
1/4 or 3/8
And we
ounce
throw
jig
it
head
on.
to throw, you know, out on a
Head
point, throw
similar.
it by a dock, bump it through a little pile of brush,
Similar to
something like
this.
that. All right, let's move over here.
A lot of times with that stuff, it'll be somewhere around a half and just a little bit heavier. I'm not sure. Ours that we make's just in between a half and 3/4 somewhere. But I don't think that matters quite as much as what a lot of people think. You know, unless you start seeing a lot of suspended fish, then you can adjust your weight accordingly to not have to wind it so fast, where you keep it in the strike zone a little bit longer.
That's the key with that time of the year. The fact that you know they can be a little bit picky. Then, you know, if you don't have any current flowing, they can be pretty picky with what they want. You know, anytime a fish suspends, you got to fish above it. Okay, and like I say, in August and September, sometimes they suspend in that much water. So if they suspend in 5 foot of water, then guess what? It's harder to keep your bait above them. So your square lip can't even get below them, you know, a lot of times. So you got to keep that in mind when you're choosing your lures. And like I say, that's the time of the year when they suspend a lot. The bulk of their day is spent suspending.
Yeah.
So, you know, your swim baits can't be too heavy. Sometimes your spinner bait, you have to keep it up, you know, wind it, you know, through that upper part of the water column. So it's one time of the year when I throw sometimes a 1- type crankbait. You know, I've always got one of them laid out, you know, and ready to go. You know, and that's we used to throw one that was made by Timber Tiger. And it's basically the same thing. It's like you know, it's the same situation as a 1-. It's got a little short bill, so it only goes about that deep. But like I say, if he's suspended 3 foot deep, if your bait goes that deep, guess what? That's perfect, you know, because that means he's only got to turn his body and he's right there at it to get it. You know, so that's just some of the things you got to key on and make sure of. If there's one mistake that gets made that time of the year, most people fish below them, you know, because they want to suspend around them boat docks a lot. You know, so if I'm pitching stuff at it, you know, jig wise, worm wise, a lot of times it's gonna be lighter. If I'm out on points and stuff like that, or a fishing brush, then I'm gonna fish it just like I do in the summertime. And I'm gonna fish whatever gets down in the brush, you know, and I can keep it in the brush handier. So that's when I'm throwing 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce jigs, stuff like that. It's all kind of the basic same colors and stuff, but you have to feature, okay, are they on the bottom? If they're on the bottom, get down there with them. You know, get on the bottom. If there's a chance of them suspending and stuff like that, then you gotta understand you're gonna have to adjust your size of your jig, your trailer on your jig to keep it up off the bottom a little bit better. You know, I believe in a swimming trailer throughout August, September, even up into October. I believe in something paddling, you know, swimming type baits, like the Rage stuff. I want my bait to have quite a bit of action in it. It's only when it gets colder that I go back to crawdads and super chunk, stuff that don't have a lot of action. So you can keep that in mind. Okay, what next? How many more baits we need?
We got swim baits, jig trailers, jigs, spinnerbait. I'm covered on that.
2 more. In the mornings, can't go wrong with a walking topwater bait of some sort. Go pick out our favorite. A walking type crank or walking crank type topwater is you can't beat that. And it's because you can manipulate how slow you work it, you know.
Like
you know, you can really entice a fish
Vixens or really
to come
any
off of that shallow
spook type
log
bait.
or from right away from that corner of that dock with a walking type bait, because you
this
can,
is honestly
you know, walk it a little bit and then let it glide once, you know, let it glide off to the side real slow.
Yeah.
Maybe away from the object, you know, it's like he's got spooked and he went to run away, and a walking type topwater is mighty good for that time of the year.
I think I've seen them over here, that river to sea.
Don't they make a good one?
Yeah.
Berkeley?
Okay. I mean, that's one.
That's a Spro.
Yeah. It's the same.
Go over there to the Strike King. Get one of them. That'll work.
Whenever it comes to something, a walking type bait, it's either going to be, for me, it's either going to be black or something pretty simple like a bone
I'm
looking.
not a big believer in you know, he's only seeing the bottom, you know, for the most part.
Yeah.
So depending on the day, you know, I'll throw a black one around on a cloudy day, but then I'll throw a white one around, you know, of some sort. Do I believe bone's the key? No, not necessarily, because I like mine to be a little bit more pearly colored than that. But bone's just what 99% of the people throw. That's what you can find in any tackle store, because that's what everybody throws. So it's good enough. It's white on the bottom. I can remember back, I'm of the age that I can remember back the 2 topwater colors that you had were one with a black head and one with a red head, okay? That's the way the spooks came. You had a red-headed one or you had a black-headed one. It wasn't until later on in the years that they had perch-colored ones and, you know, really pretty shad ones and stuff. You know, so I think they see what they see from the bottom, and that's it. So that's the bulk of it right there.
Yeah, these two.
We throw a jig a ton, and sometimes a straight tail worm. You know, you need a straight tail worm that time of the year, and I think that's just because on Lake of the Ozarks, they've seen so many 10-inch ribbon tails, power worms, that they're kind of done with them. You still have somebody catch them on it, Some of the best fishermen on Lake of the Ozarks throw a 10-inch worm clean up into October and catch fish on them day after day after day. I go to a straight tail like Zoom or a Senko type bait. I Texas rig it and I throw it on a shaky head. Either way, that's always a good fish catcher anytime you're around brush of any kind. If you need to see one of them, it's pretty basic. It'll be a variation of green pumpkin or it'll be a black. And that's about it, those two colors. I don't go to anything else because you don't have to. You know, and when I say a variation of green pumpkin, Lawson's favorite color is green pumpkin gold. My favorite color is anything in green pumpkin, because I don't think he gets up there and gives it that close a look. Personally, I think he, you know, if it's green pumpkin, he bites it. If it's black, he bites it. The reason we throw black a lot is because of where you're putting it. You're putting it in brush piles. You're putting it in the shade of the dock. You know, you're taking that extra effort to get it to go back in that dock and stuff like that. So, you know, so black's always good in a deep shaded area. And that's it. That's my picks. So that's how we fish in August and September. Our key to catching them in September is just the fact that we spend a lot of time on the water and we remember bites, okay? If I have a bite in July off of something, I remember where that bite came from. Come September, when fishing gets really tough, that becomes important, and knowing where every fish you're gonna catch, you know, is knowing where he's at and going there and maybe spending 10, 20 casts. But anyways, those are the lures we use. We don't do anything fancy. We just spend a lot of time on the water that time of the year. That's how we do it. We're the Hibdons. Thanks for watching.
Shop Bait Works.
Shop Bait Works. These guys got everything you need here. Go online, get it online, or come in the store. The store's an awesome store. I mean, you got such a huge rod selection and stuff, and the tackle selection's out of this world. I'd put their store up against anybody's. So, Shop Bait Works.